Hello, everyone. My name is Jay Smith. I am the owner and operator of Rock Bottom Studio. I'm so glad to have you with us to witness my interview with Mr. Keith Szarabajka. He's a very well-known actor, mostly character actor. He's one of those. He's one of those types that you may not know his name, but you know his face. He's been in hundreds of movies, including The Dark Knight and Argo. He was a regular cast member of the 1980s action series on CBS, The Equalizer. So, without further ado, I present the interview. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe. So what are you doing right now? Are you working on a project?
Yes, actually, for my theater company, I'm working on two projects. Ensemble Studio Theater, the Los Angeles project. We're doing a one-act festival that I'm one of the producers of, a virtual one-act festival. We'll do it record it on a program called OBS Ninja, which allows you to composite people so they look like they're actually in the same room.
Oh, really?
Eight one-acts. Yeah, it's pretty cool. 8 different playwrights from our company and a lot of actors. There's like 26 actors in it, 8 directors. So it'll be fun. And we're just starting to get that all together right now, and that'll be recording in the next couple of weeks. And then we do. I've been working with a group of writers from my company on a of a pig, which is a pandemic immunity generator, and it's a comedic, hopefully, space soap opera. About Captain Dakota James of the USS TBD, whose mission is to she's the Amelia Earhart of space, with her mechanic. Second in command and therapeutic sex partner Fred, who are flying around the universe saving things. And her mission right now is to find Pandemic and bring him back and destroy him. So it'll be 6 20-minute episodes that we'll be recording next month and putting up online. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. My only suggestion would be maybe send the Space Force instead. She
is part of the U.S. She is part of the United Planet Earth Space Force. It's 15 years in the future, right? And this is COVID. This is COVID 35 is the disease she's fighting at this point. But there are numerous pandemics all over, civilization.
So is this the disease now as it's sort of progressed and mutated, or is it just kind of
maybe it could be, right? But the Pandemic is actually that's his name, Pandemic. He's actually the major villain. He's a character, and he has a Slavic Russian mob gun mob called Amanuensis, whom you find out what her real name is later. But and then there's a crooked general who is in charge of the Space Force and who's got his own things, his own irons in the fire, and then there's Dr. Nyla Googlesmith, who's the only virologist and epidemiologist left alive on Earth. All the rest are dead.
My God. Well, that sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, it'll be fun. We've had fun writing it. It's been about 7 months of work now. Almost 8. Writing it, and we're ready to begin recording it.
Yeah, where will this be available for people to watch?
We don't know yet. It'll be on some live. It'll probably be on our website that you can then access. But we'll start putting out stuff when we're actually ready to do that, about where it's going to be and how it'll be on social media, probably things like YouTube Live and and Facebook Live and on the estlosangeles.org website.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll definitely look out for that. I'm on your wiki page right now. I'm
Hmm.
sorry, your Internet Movie Database page.
IMDb
Um,
page, yes.
it says that there's a movie called The Big Rant in post production. What's the story with that?
Uh, it was a New York Film Academy student project, but they actually paid it, and it was actually really fun to do. And I play this kind of mythological character who, but I don't want to give too much away. Who,
No, no, no. I don't want you to do that.
yeah, but who's you think he's human at first, and find out that he isn't. So that's it's interesting. It's written by, but it's actually very clever and funny, and we'll see. A man named David Barbeski is a student at NY Film Academy, and he produced it and helped and wrote it. So it's quite good. You know,
I
it
know that
really was a lot of fun.
I know that's a very good school. Speaking of which, where did you have the majority of your training as an actor?
In high school.
Just like high school drama?
Yeah, both high schools that I went to had very extensive theater programs. They did like four straight plays and a musical and a variety show each year. So sometimes two musicals, and I managed to be in a lot of it. And in fact, the last 2 years of high school for me, when I was at John Hersey High School in Arlington Heights, Illinois, it was sort of like the Keith Szarabajka rep company. So I got a lot of training.
That's great.
And then I got a theater scholarship to Trinity University in San Antonio, Texas, where Paul Baker who ran the Dallas Theater Center, ran the theater department at Trinity, and it was a great theater department. And I went there for a semester, and then while I was there, I actually read for 6 hours for Badland. I was read by Terrence Malick for 6 hours for the Martin Sheen role in Badland, which of course Martin Sheen
Really?
got, yeah, and
Wow.
then Badlands, and he wrote me when I got home. He wrote me a postcard about a month to 6 weeks later, saying that he was sorry, but they made him hire. He wanted to hire me, but they made him hire a professional actor who was Martin Sheen. And I then got. I ended up auditioning for the Organic Theater Company of Chicago, who needed a replacement, and it just happened. I just one day, I just out of the blue, I'd gone to see Death of a Salesman at Arlington Park Theater out in Arlington Heights in my
Like,
company car, and I'd gone with one of my drama teachers and my sister and a buddy, and I was so moved by that. It was with Jack Warden, and he was so great as Willie Loman, and I was so moved by it that I didn't want to become Hap or Biff. I was 19 at the time. That I dropped everybody off after the play. It was like a 5 o'clock show, and I drove downtown to. It was like a voice told me to just go now, so I
right.
did, and I went down and I drove down and parked in some abandoned lot off of Lincoln Avenue in the Lincoln Park area of Chicago, Lincoln Park West, and ended up sort of waking up out of this dream in front of the theater company where I had seen an incredible production called Poe the year before during my senior year in high school, and was like going, "Oh my God, these are the people I want to work with." And so, but I'm standing in front as the play's letting out, the evening performance, and I suddenly woke up and went, "What am I doing here? Oh my God, I've got to stop smoking pot." And I'm just leaning against a lamppost and kind of pounding my head lightly against it, and I feel this tap on my shoulder, and I turn around and there's this short guy there, and he goes, "Are you okay?" I go, yeah, yeah. Can I help you?" Yeah, I guess so." He says, "Are you looking for somebody here? Are you waiting to meet somebody?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, who?" He goes, "Stuart Gordon." And I go, "Who is the director and the co-author of the play and the artistic director of the Organic Theater Company?" And I go, "No, I don't know him." And he goes, "Lenny Kleinfeld, who was the author of the play that they were doing, Warp." And I go, No, I don't know him either." And he goes, "Zazu Pitts?" And I go, "Yeah, that's the one. Take me in to see her." So he brings me in. We're in this rug room, which was the ante room to the backstage area of the theater, um, where later David Mamet would first have his first play produced at the Body Politic, called Duck Variations. But I'm sitting there. And he goes, standing there, and he goes, you know, and he stops me, and he goes, you know, my name is Bill Norris. What's yours? And I said, Keith Szarabajka. And he goes, I'll just call you Keith if you don't mind. I go, that's fine. And he goes, you know, Zazu Pitts isn't here. And I says, yeah, I kind of know that. He says, well, why are you here? I go, well, I'm at home from the summer. I'm in the theater department at a university down in Texas. And I go, I would like to, I've been working, you know, in theater all through high school and afterwards, and I just wanted to do something here. And this was a theater company where I saw Poe, you know, a year or so ago, and this was a theater company I want to work with. And he goes, really? And he's looking at me, and I had pretty long blonde hair, and I was tan, and I was really fit at the time, you know. I was running 4 to 6 miles a day. I was swimming 1,000 yards a day, and I was in Texas where it's warm, you know, except when it rains and it's freezing cold and everything's flooding. But and he goes, have you ever acted before? And I go, yes. And he goes, okay, you know what play we're doing now? I go, he goes, it's called Warp. I go, oh yeah, some buddies of mine saw it and they loved it. They thought it was really funny. They said there was this little Woody Allen guy running around saving the universe, you know. And he goes, oh, they must have seen me because I had to step in because the lead guy got hurt. And he says because he kind of looked like a Woody Allen sort of character. And he actually played another big character in it. And he goes, he said, I've got someone I want you to meet. He goes, I go, okay. So he brings me to the green room door and knocks on it, and the door opens, and this huge cloud of pot smoke comes out, and Stuart Gordon comes out, who kind of looked like Jerry Garcia, you know, with the little round glasses and the big sort of you know, hairdo and a beard, and he's looking at me, and he looks at Norris, and he looks at me, and he looks back at Norris like, why the fuck are you bringing your tricks back to meet me, you know, and and he goes, and Bill goes, Stuart Gordon, this is Keith. I can't pronounce his last name. Keith wants to audition for the role of Lord Cumulus in Warp. And he looks at me, and he looks me up and down, and he goes, far out. Come back tomorrow with a prepared 2-minute Shakespearean reading. And turns around. Then he turns back around, and he goes, and make it something militant. And Bill Norris goes, it's all yours now, Bubula. And I go, whoa. So to make it long story short, I got hired. And I ended up becoming, I was going to replace John Hurd, the late John Hurd.
Oh, man, unbelievable.
You know, right. And he was playing the role at the time, but he was unhappy and didn't want to do it. And so he wanted to leave. He was from D.C. originally, but his sister, Cordis Hurd, was in the play and played one of the major characters. And so that's why they were looking for a replacement. But then as soon as they hired me, John decided he didn't want to leave because they made a contract to go to Broadway with the play. So they asked me to stay on as the understudy and a bit player and do all the shit work. And I went, I'm on. I'll do it. And so that's what I did. And I ended up getting to do it for 2.5 months at the end of the Chicago run. And then I was the understudy and minor character player in the Broadway run, which was a disaster, of course. But the first play I went from off loop theater in Chicago to Broadway. So that was a kind of a big jump. And also at the same time, I was 1A for the draft, and there were no student deferments any longer at the time. It was 1972. So I had all my tests and all my examinations, and I was told, you're going, buddy. There's no way you're going. You know, I even had, you know, people write me letters saying I was crazy, and they said, nope, we want crazy. You're going. And so I was either going to Broadway or I was going to Vietnam. And I went to Broadway at that point. That's the story of my life.
So you didn't have bone spurs.
I didn't have bone spurs, no. And I did not drop. If they had drafted me, I would have gone. But the year before, they had drafted to number 130, and I was number 99. All right, in my year, and they drafted to 95. So I missed it by 4 numbers. You know.
Wow. Yeah, I'm because
funny the things life turns on, right?
Yeah, I know. I think for you that was I think that worked out well for you and the rest of us. You've mentioned so many actors that I know and some who I'm like ridiculously in fans of. Of course, John Hurt. I've seen so many of his movies.
Andre DeShields was in Warp too. I don't know if you know who he is.
I know the name. because well, John Hurt. First of all, I just about all of his movies I love.
You're
I don't know.
breaking up a little bit, Jason.
What's that?
John Hurt's been one of my closest friends my entire life. For instance, that I was in Warp, in
Right.
1972, and he was like a brother to me. So
That's amazing. He
yeah.
was in. He played Winston Smith in the movie version of 1984 with Richard Burton, and wow. And he always said that.
Not John Hurt, not John Hurt, John Hurd,
Oh,
different actor.
Herbert. Oh, okay.
Yeah, different
Hurt.
actor. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Um,
You've seen him in I don't know what was it. Uh, I'm blanking. Sorry, right now,
no,
John's.
that's all right.
It was the remake of Paul Schrader's version of Cat People. He was the dad in Home Alone in the Home Alone movies. Uh, he did what was it? Cutter's Way. He did or Cutter's End with Jeff Bridges. John was a terrific actor. He
Oh,
won
okay.
five Obie Awards. He won 5 Obie Awards
Okay. Yep.
in the late '70s and early '80s in New York. He was and one of his performances that he did was in the New York Shakespeare Festival in the Park production of with Raul Julia and Richard Dreyfuss of Othello, and he played Michael Cassio in it, and he won an Obie for that. It's his performance in it was stunning. It's still something I remember to this day.
Yeah. Now that I'm looking
Yeah.
at the photos, of course I know who he is. And you also
Yeah.
mentioned another actor. Hopefully, I didn't hear you wrong. That was Jack Warden. And of
Andre
course,
DeShields.
Jack Warden.
Jack Warden, yeah, I saw him at Arlington Park Theater. I didn't get to work with him, yeah, but
But even,
his performances were lumen.
yeah, and just
Sorry, you broke up, Jason.
that's okay. Um, so yeah, I know who he is very well. It seems like you've rubbed shoulders with some really big time actors. Is I guess
The
my
guys
next
that
question,
were, what?
I guess
Sorry,
I guess my next question is, all right. Well, I'm going to get the Equalizer stuff out of the way because I know there's going to be people saying, "Why didn't you ask him any Equalizers questions?" So I'll do that and get it out of the way.
okay.
I always describe you as sort of like McCall's right-hand man. I don't like the term sidekick because it makes me think of Robin with his green shoes and but
Yeah.
like the best way I could describe and his character now wasn't his character also part of the CIA?
Well, he was part of the company, whatever that might be,
Oh, yeah.
and it was an ex-Navy SEAL, and so he was used, as an operative, I guess. He was not an analyst. He was, someone who would go in country and like the guys that went into Afghanistan, to rout the Taliban.
Right.
He would be one of those type of guys that were riding on donkeys and camels and wrapped in keffiyehs, and things. He would be that kind of guy. The guys with beards and who show up in civilian clothes. He was one of those guys,
Yeah,
But
my favorite episode,
like Delta Force, somebody like that.
just know Chuck Norris and Lee Marvin. Yeah, because my favorite episodes were always the ones that the two of you and Edward were on, because I always thought it was great. There was one episode where the Equalizer is being held hostage with a bunch of people in a wedding party, and you're the guy who has to sneak in and help him. That's one of my favorite episodes.
I had to crawl through all these ventilation ducts, which was fun, actually. And then I kick it out at the end, and it's over already. So
Yeah, jeez. So how
Tony Shalhoub was in that episode.
Yes, he was. That's right. He was one of the hijackers.
Yep. Yeah.
That's right. I do remember that. Because
Patricia Clarkson. He was the bride. Patricia Clarkson was the bride.
Yes. Yeah, I know who she is too. She used to be on a show I really like called Murder One. It only lasted like 2 seasons, but it was a really good show. It had
Yeah, I
Daniel
never really
Benzal.
watched it, but I remember with that it was I watched it a couple times. It was a good show. It was a very
It
good show. She's a great actress. She's a
was.
big stage actress in New York for a long time.
I
Long
could
time.
I could see that. So how did it come to pass that you joined the cast of The Equalizer?
I got sent on an audition, and I to Universal in New York, and it turned out, it was just a regular audition. It was supposed to be a one-off, and one-off episode. There wasn't like saying, "Oh, we're reading for this guy who's going to be here forever." But it happened. It's just so happened that the screenwriters who wrote the episode that I started in The Equalizer, China Rain, Morris Hurley and Joel Surnow, also wrote the episode that I did of Miami Vice back in the first season of Miami Vice. Um, it was called, I think, Swamp Thing, in which I played a hippie pot dealer who was battling Colombian cocaine dealers, with the help of Tubbs and Crockett, and they liked me, so and Richard Compton, who's now deceased, unfortunately, became a very good friend of mine, and he directed a number of episodes of The Equalizer, but he was the one who directed that initial episode, and he and I hit it off, and so I did the episode, and Edward and I hit it off, and I remember him inviting me into his trailer one day while we were shooting, down on I think in Chinatown or the Lower East Side, and he just kind of talked to me by himself for it was for quite a while. And little did I know that that was my interview to be, sort of a recurring character because he decided that he liked me, and I didn't appear in every episode that year. I was in four, but I did a lot of. I was working a lot, in film and on stage. So I actually didn't have time. And then for the second season, they actually forgot to offer me a regular contract until halfway through the season, and I'd already committed to doing 2 movies that summer. And but then they signed me on and Jim McAdams goes, my guy's fucked up. He goes, I'm sorry. He says, here we're hiring you as a regular. And so I did 8 that season, the second season, and then the next season after when Edward had his heart attack, I did 12, but I was signed for 17. But they kept trying to replace me with Richard Jordan. With God, I
Yes.
think they replaced me with a dog at one point. But uh, it, for some reason it was like everybody considered it, who was ever writing for it considered it their opportunity to get rid of Mickey and have a new recurring character. But and then this last season I did 17 episodes. So it was great.
Yeah,
And
I remember it was hit and miss. I interviewed Coleman Luck this past summer, and I asked him about that period when Edward Woodward had his heart attack, and the only way he could describe it was pure chaos.
yep, it was pretty chaotic for all of
Yeah,
us. I mean, I went from being the guy who was jumping through windows and running across roofs and leaping across things and jumping onto moving cars to a guy who said what 8 times in the episode.
and
So it was kind of a mess, but I got to meet Robert Mitchum during that
that's
time,
what I
and
was gonna
actually Richard
say.
Jordan and I became very friendly. He was the only I was the only person on the set he actually liked. So he and I would play chess, all the time. He didn't talk to anybody else, and he kind of hated the job. So but if for some reason he picked me as his buddy, so which I was fine to go along with. But Mitchum was really cool. I
That's
remember we
what
were
I
shooting
heard.
up in
I've
Harlem,
heard great stories.
and one point, and we broke for lunch, and it was like it was like the DP Jeffrey Erb and a bunch of other people were there. There were like 8 of us, and the director was there. And we were all sitting around, and Mitchum was there, and the waitress came up, and she asked, "Does anybody want anything to drink?" And everybody's kind of looking at each other, and Mitchum just says, "Bring me 4 extra dry vodka martinis,
Yeah.
and save the ice for the poor man." You know, and so we all went, "Oh, well, I guess I'll have a beer then, or a glass of wine or whatever." And she brings she says, "Do you want me to bring them all at the same time, or just one after another as you finish them?" And he goes, "Just line them right up, ma'am." You know. And so she brought all 4 out. She put them in front of him, and he just goes bam, 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 knocks all 4 of them back right in a row, just like that, and without missing a beat. Didn't and spent the rest of the day working, honestly. So
Yep.
and was, if anything, more in tune, after lunch than he was before. So it was pretty wild. And there was another moment during that episode, those 2 episodes, where we had a gunfire scene, and it was down in the West Village somewhere, and we were in an auto museum, and uh, the armorer slash property master comes up and gives me my gun and gives him his, and Mitchum just took the gun and emptied the clip at the guy's feet. And the guy almost had a heart attack. And then Mitchum opens up and holds the gun back up to him with an open chamber and says, "Next time you'll hand it to me with the chamber open, won't you?"
Well, that's it.
Showing me
Robert.
that they're
Yeah, Robert Mitchum's old school. That's how a lot of those old school actors were, because I mean they're used to the heyday of Hollywood, where
oh yeah,
everything was at their beck and call, and lunch was, it was liquid lunch. And I know several of the
oh yeah,
actors who I really look up to and influenced my interest in it. I never did acting other than drama, like you. I think I did Death of a Salesman and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, and that was it.
ah,
But a
2
lot of
great
those,
plays.
oh yeah,
Kind of
absolutely,
depressing plays.
yeah, yeah. Well, and I was 15 at the time. I wanted to do Virginia Woolf because Richard Burton was in it. That was my main reason. But I
Right, of
remember
course.
the drama instructor saying, "Whatever you do, don't play him as Burton." So I think I did a pretty good job of doing that. But when you see a movie 100 times, it's hard to get it out of your head. So I watched clips
Of course.
of various stage productions, and that helped a lot. Um, there's another one of your former castmates who seems to be keeping really busy. Um, is Margolis?
Mark Margolis, yeah, yeah.
I see him in a lot of stuff. Currently, he was just in Breaking Bad, and now he's
Right.
in the sequel, or actually it's a prequel, Better Call Saul, and he
Better Call
plays the
Saul,
same
right, right.
character. Yeah, yeah, and I've seen him in a bunch of stuff, and that he's a hell of an
Well,
actor
Mark
too.
Mark's he's a good character actor. He's a great type, and he's a nice guy. Kind of a tough New Yorker. He's an interesting
Oh
guy.
yeah.
He can be a little, you know, edgy at times, but he and I got along fine. I actually saw him. I don't know. It was about maybe a year or so ago, maybe a little longer. I was having breakfast with friends at this place, the Sportsman's Lodge in Studio City, and he just happened to be there. And at first, I recognized him, but he didn't recognize me because I've changed a lot, since my Mickey Kosmeyer days. I'm older and I have a beard and I was heavier. I've lost about 25 pounds since then, but
I noticed that
it
compared
is
to
what it is.
your wiki shot. I'm like he doesn't look like that now. Can't they, can't they update that for you?
Well, they do from time to time, but you never know. It's like it, it's something that I don't really deal with. Honestly, that's there was a friend of mine who used to constantly update it all the time. For me. Um, so we'll see. He's a nice guy. But he eventually recognized me. But he'd had some sort of illness, that sort of affected him a little bit, in the last couple years. So he was a little. He was still Mark, but his memory wasn't as quite as good as it had been.
Right.
Um, you know.
So,
And
hey,
I hear from Irving Metzman from time to time. What was his character's name? He was the big heavyset guy, bald. God, what was his name? And then I apologize for not remembering it.
no, that's all right. I think I know who you're talking about. What was the actor's name?
Irving Metzman. Here he is. He was also in the Purple Rose of Cairo with an old girlfriend of mine, and what else? He was in something else. Let's see his.
Okay, yeah, I remember. He was the one who was always eating, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, he was always at a hot dog stand, or
I can't remember what his name. What was his actor? What was his name? I can't remember what his character's name was. Irving Metzman.
let me see. The problem is you have to make sure to put in TV cast now after the movies.
Right, right.
Did you get a chance to see any of the
Of what?
Denzel Washington movies, or did you avoid them like Coleman?
I just avoided him.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, and my agents actually, called them and said, "Well, did you guys have anything, for Keith? He was arguably the second, uh, the second most popular character on that show." And they said, "No, we're trying to distance ourselves uh, as much as possible."
Yeah.
Yeah, from the original. So, and I'm sure they're probably doing the same thing with the Queen Latifah, version of it. So
Yeah, I
I
have
guess they just
I just it just feels like a show that should be
he
left.
played Sterno. His character's name was
Yeah,
Sterno.
I just found it. Irving Metzman.
Yeah.
Is he
He's still alive. He's
yeah, I was gonna
actually
say, I don't see anything
he
where he's
sent a play to my theater company to do. It's not something for us, but he's an interesting writer.
it's always good to know them. So
Hmm.
the Equalizer wrapped in 1989. Um
Right.
I remember
We were actually
Coleman.
supposed to have a fifth season.
Yes,
We were
that's
actually
what
supposed to have another season. But when Universal raised the licensing fee for Murder, She Wrote,
that
CBS in
was
retaliation canceled The Equalizer, and I think it was Spencer for Hire as well,
uh-huh.
or whatever. It
Basically
was some other show. Yeah.
so Jessica could get a raise is the way that I've heard it.
Uh,
Or get
well,
more money.
essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a shame. So after the Equalizer, I mean, it looks to me like you just became a huge character actor, which that I'd already known because I've seen you in a lot of stuff. In fact, I watched you in The Dark Knight the other day for the 50th time. And
That's a fun movie.
Also, which is a great movie. What was
Yeah.
the what was it like on the set of that movie? I
Which
imagine you
one?
Argo.
Argo, I most of my scenes were with Bryan Cranston, and he was just the nicest guy.
Yeah.
And I knew a lot of the actors, from like I knew Titus Welliver because I had done Sons of Anarchy with him, and he had a smallish part, like me in Argo, but has since gone on to fame with his show. And but he was always a good actor. And here's a thing you might find interesting. I actually worked with Ben Affleck in 1986 on ABC After School special called "Wanted: The Perfect Guy" with him and Madeline Kahn, all right, who played his mother in it. And in it, he and his sister, I think, or friend, decided that was a young African American girl. Um, and I don't remember her name, were looking for the perfect guy for their now widowed mom, played by Madeline Kahn. And let's see, Catelyn Adams directed it, and I knew her because she and her partner at the time, Melanie Mayron, I met them doing Missing in Mexico City in 1982.
Another great movie.
Yeah, and uh, but anyways, I get this call from my agent saying they want you to come in and read. It was a small part, like a two-scene part in Argo, and I go and I looked and I went, oh my God, Ben Affleck's directing it. I said, look, it's not that I don't want to read for it, but can you ask Ben if I should bother coming in to read for it? If because and remind him that he and I were in the Emmy Award when wanted the perfect guy, and my agent goes, okay. So a couple weeks go past. I didn't hear anything. I figured I said, well, Ben went, fuck you. But I get this call saying, well, Ben's hired you for the part. You're hired for Argo, without auditioning. I went, oh, great. So cut to a month or two later, we got together for a table read of all the small characters, with Ben at his office in the San Vicente area, Westwood, and we wrote these, read the screenplay through, and Ben says, "Don't worry, you're all hired. No one's getting fired as a result of this." But what happened afterwards is he promoted me. He gave me a bigger part. He gave me.
That's what I was going to say. I feel like I remember you being in quite a bit of it.
I was like, he ended up giving me a part that was like, it was a couple weeks work. So it was, it was really fun, and like I said, the people in it were great, and Ben was great, and George Clooney was one of the producers of it, because it was originally his project.
Yeah.
And I got to meet him. I'd actually worked with him for him one time before on a HBO series that he did called Unscripted. I played a limo driver in it, and was picking up one of the lead characters at LAX, and we got into a beef, and it was actually a very funny scene, but it was fun.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But that's what my story for our.
That because like as I said, I knew you as obviously Mickey Kosmeyer from the Equalizer, and I also knew you as what seems to be a fairly in high demand actor. So I guess my question is, after the Equalizer, what happened? Were you getting any calls for big parts? Were you getting calls for smaller parts?
No, I did a lot of stuff. I did a lot of right after that I did a lot of plays in New York, and I did this play, I was doing a play every year anyways in New York, all through the Equalizer. In my breaks I would do a play and usually a play and a movie, but certainly a play and or a movie, on every break that I had from the Equalizer. So after that I did the lead in a terrible movie called Undercover of Darkness, which was awful. But and then I did the lead in on a CBS summer series called this 52-year-old man who got younger, and I had 10 hours of makeup every day in that was like an 8-month job, which unfortunately didn't go beyond the first 8 episodes, but you can still see it as a mini series, with its alternate ending that we shot for the mini series if it didn't get picked up. I remember I think it was Jeff Sagansky, who ran CBS at the time, saying to Stephen King and Richard Rosenberg, who were the executive producers, saying, "So what's Keith gonna do? Turn into Macaulay Culkin at the end? He didn't quite see it, but it was a fun job. Felicity Huffman was in it. She played she played the chief of security who was hunting for me, and then Frances Sternhagen played my wife in it. But it was 10 hours of makeup every day, and it took an hour and a half to take the makeup off. So that was an intense job. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I can
But then
imagine.
after that, I did, and then after that, I did several movies, after moving here in 1993. I was on Broadway in 1991, 92. I worked for Cucaracha Theater Company and I played a serial killer in it, and my girlfriend, who is now my ex-wife, played a little prostitute in it, and was hilarious. It was a huge cast. We actually had more people on stage at the beginning. There were 23 people on stage, but by the end, we had to move to a different space because 800 people were coming to it on Saturday night at 10:30. So it was really a fun gig. And then I moved to New York. I mean, from New York to California. At first, it was only going to be for 2 weeks, but then I'm still here 27 years later. 20, yeah, 20, almost 28 years later. Moved on Valentine's Day in 1993. You know.
So I'm guessing you fared the wildfires okay.
Yeah, it's I live in an area that's not too affected by it. I live in the Studio City area, so I'm not kind of at the wilderness ex-urbia interface, but my ex-wife lived in Calabasas, and they had to evacuate last year at one point, so it's there. It's ever present. You can smell the smoke and see. I remember driving up on Mulholland one night with my sons because we just went up to see it, and the whole other side, the mountains on the other side of the valley were on a flame. And so it's just it's pretty disconcerting, when it's happening because it's wild, and it was wild last year, But
Yeah,
knock on wood, the where I live hasn't been affected.
yeah, that's good. Yeah, the fires were so immense that even where I'm up in New York State, in Syracuse, New
Right.
York, and we could actually see, like, when it was dusk, and especially if the sky was kind of a shade of orange, we could
Right.
actually small indications, like small lines basically of haze, and that haze was coming
Of
from
what?
the
Of
wildfires.
haze? Oh yeah, from the
Yeah,
wildfires. Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
at certain times, the ash from it would blanket your car like snow.
uh,
Because it would depend on which way the wind was blowing. So you would get that.
so yeah, I mean, you have been a very busy man. The one thing I didn't know about you, I'm guessing it's because they're from a lot of video games, and I don't play as much as I'd like to because I never seem to have
I've
time.
done
But
about 100 video games. Yeah.
you have done so much voice work. It looks like you've done voice
I
work
don't
for,
play them at all. I'm not good at it. I tried playing Halo, I think Halo, the original Halo or Halo 2 with my sons, or maybe it was Call of Duty. But before I could figure out who I was and what screen I was dead, already. So but I enjoy doing video games. They're really fun doing them. So I've done, like my big roles were like Harbinger in Mass Effect 2 and 3, and the Didact in Halo 4, and people like Cornelius Slate, and I can't remember some of the other characters' names, but Reed Wood or something, Reed Wild, in Bioshock 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and Infinite. Um, Reed Wallace, I think his name was, and Cornelius Slate. But I've done a lot, and I'm like, I think I'm every dark elf in Skyrim. Uh,
I
but I've
read
also played.
I
Go ahead.
read that one of the characters you voiced, they also put in the game with your likeness.
Yeah, well, that was actually the Didact I did the motion capture for, and also for Dead Space I did the motion capture for that, and I did facial contouring for L.A. Noir for my character Herschel Biggs, who was the arson detective, and I was also the narrator of L.A. Noir. You know.
You in a way, you remind me of Mark Hamill in the fact that he did a bunch of stuff and then he didn't disappear, but you didn't see him as often. And then come to find out, he's been
Well, Mark
working.
Hamill works all the time.
He's doing tons of voiceover work.
He got injured, you know.
Oh, did he? No, I didn't know that.
He was injured in a car crash. I don't know what year it was, but you can tell I think it was between um, The Empire Strikes Back and
Return of the Jedi.
whatever. Yeah, Return of the Jedi. You can see that there's like a slight difference in his face, you know, because had facial reconstruction surgery, from what I heard. I don't really know him. He does a lot. He did a lot. He did a lot of voiceovers. Like he was the voice of the Joker in a lot of the Batman cartoons. You know, I mean, from what I understand, he's a great guy. I don't really know him, you know. But here's the funny thing to tell you: that play I told you about, Warp, that I was in.
Yeah.
It was Warp's episode 1, 2, and 3. You know, then only episode 1 went to Broadway, but it ran for a year and a day in Chicago. And George Lucas actually came to see it prior to writing Star Wars in 1972. So while it's not the same, you know, they're very different stories in a way. One is more of a comic book, and the other is more of a space soap opera, you know, so to speak, an epic. There's a lot of elements of Warp in Star Wars, and he probably saw either me or John Hurd do the character of David Carson, Lord Cumulus, who would have been the sort of Luke Skywalker, you know, role in Star Wars. And there were similar stories. Is that David Carson was a meek, mild bank teller in Central City, USA, who got called into the fifth dimension by the fourth dimension by Lugal Banda, who was knowledge. You know, much the same way as Luke Skywalker got picked and brought to off of Tatooine by Obi-Wan Kenobi, whom he didn't know. You know, so there are many similar. They're all Joseph Campbell sort of similarities, but it's because they were both drawn from Joseph Campbell, both pieces. You know, I'm not saying that Lucas was a plagiarist by any means, but they're very similar. And it's funny that you should say that I look, you know, I remind you of Mark Hamill, because the play that I was in was probably some influence on Star Wars, you know.
That's wild. You know what they say, though? Imitation, it's the highest form of flattery.
Oh, absolutely. You know, yeah, absolutely. You know.
Yeah.
Okay. Warp was God. It was great. Oh, it was one of the most exciting things I was ever in.
Is there any?
I got to get off pretty soon.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm gonna wrap it up right now. So first of all, I'm very glad to see you on the big screen, because every character I've seen you has been amazing. Sons of Anarchy, where you played that Russian mob leader, was great.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, that was great.
I had fun on that. Kurt Sutter, who is the executive producer and showrunner for that, when I was on it, he directed the last episode in season 3, and I'd done at that point 2 episodes, and he goes, "God, Keith, you know, I just love the work that you're doing. I got big plans for you." So he killed me off in the first episode in the next season.
Oh, that's a big plan.
Yeah, big plan. It was a great death, but it was still, oh my God. I was like going, oh my God, this is gonna be like Holtz and Angel. I'm gonna have like a long run on this, at least a season or so, maybe, you know, but no, ended up being 4 episodes, you know, which was fun, you know.
Oh, I can imagine. All right, Keith. Keith Szarabajka. I say that correct?
Yes, you did.
Beautiful.
Like Balalaika, Szarabajka, right?
Szarabajka.
Means dark fairy tale in Polish.
Really? That's interesting. Yeah, I actually had to practice your last name a few times. I knew it, but not that well. And the last thing I want to do in an interview with someone is mispronounce their name. That's about the worst thing you can do. So yeah, first of all,
believe me, you would be the first one. So
Oh no, I know, but I've known about you for so long. I watched The Equalizer when it was on the air. I was 8 years old, but then
Wow.
I was a strange kid. So, okay, well, oh, one other thing, how are you and your friends and family? Are they all bearing okay with the coronavirus? Any
So
illnesses?
far, I've had, I I have had three friends die during the course of it. Not from COVID, but they died alone in hospital. Two of them did, because of they were. One of them was Stuart Gordon, who was the artistic director of the theater company in Chicago, the Organic Theater Company of Chicago, from which I came. That hired me back in 1970-02, for Warp. Another was Jack Wallace, who was a great old character actor who passed away not from COVID, but again, he was able to die at home. Thank God. They sent
Yeah,
him home.
I did notice
Um,
his obituary. That's the thing.
yeah, Jack Butcher is a great guy. He's very, very, very. It was very. I've lost a lot of people, but I guess that's what happens as you get older, and then one day it's you that's gone. So what can I say?
Yeah,
But a lot of people I know have gotten sick, and they've recovered from it. So thank God for that.
seems like
And I
yeah,
looking
not
forward to my vaccination. That's all I can tell you.
yeah. Because I my big concern has been not so much for me, although I hear it's a bitch. You're in the hospital for a few weeks, and even if you come out okay, it's not good. But
Yeah,
I also have to consider my fiance and myself. We have elderly parents and grandparents, so it seems to be a pretty safe bet that if someone elderly or someone in poor health gets it, then that's
they're
pretty
pretty
much it.
much a dead duck.
Yeah,
You know, Unfortunately. Um, And part of the thing that we wrote in this comedic space soap opera is satirizing some of those ideas, and government greed and incompetence, and other things, and people not caring for one another and what have you. There's a whole episode in there on a planet called Pfaff where people wear masks and don't like to wear them, and everything goes up in flames. But I don't want to give away too much.
well, all you got to do is have a president who's a Chinese agent who wants everyone to wear masks when they go into buildings. You'll be all right. That's the theory. That's the
Well,
theory I've been hearing from some people.
yeah, well, I think those people are delusional, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, no, I'm not touching that. All right, Keith. I can't thank you enough for your patience and your finding time to do this. I know a lot of people are going to be happy to see this. I know dozens myself who are a big fan. So this is great. I really appreciate you sitting down with me.
Well, I appreciate it. It's been fun. So
Yeah.
thanks for talking with
Oh,
me,
absolutely.
and thank you and everyone else out there who appreciates my work. And I really, that's what we live for. We just want to do good work and be appreciated for it. So
Well,
hopefully that will continue.
well, you sir are both. All right, Keith Szarabajka, everybody. Um, I'll be back with another interview shortly. You and Colmanus have started a trend for me. Now I'm getting more and more people from the Equalizer who are willing to sit down. So I thank you both for that, by
Good. Well, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. I love being on the Equalizer, and I loved Edward Woodward. He was terrific.
the way.
Just a terrific man. We remained friends. Afterwards until his death. I would often stay at his home in England. So when I was there, and I luckily have been able to go to England once or twice a year for fan conventions. With Star Fury basically for Angel, and now for Supernatural. So it's kind of great, and I'll be doing a couple of ones for Supernatural. One, I hope I get my vaccine before that. There's two in March, I think. One for Supernatural in Las Vegas, and then one for Supernatural in Dallas. So
Yeah.
I can tell you what the dates are. Let me look up and see.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, be sure get all
Let me
the
see.
plugs in.
Supernatural in Vegas. Yeah, Supernatural in Vegas goes from the 5th to the 7th of March, and then Supernatural in Dallas goes from the 12th to the 14th in Dallas. So hopefully I'll be there. Hopefully I can tell you if I don't get my vaccinations before then, I probably won't be at it. But if I do get my vaccinations before then in time, I definitely will be there. And I'm looking forward to it. And then again, I'll be in England for Supernatural in Birmingham for Star Fury I think it's at the end of September. So we'll see.
All right, yeah. I want to make sure you get all your plugs in. Absolutely, it's the least I can do.
Okay, well, thanks.
All right, thanks, Keith.
Right, and I want to just wish everybody a safe and healthy and hopefully happy 2021. Although I have to say the first 7 days have been kind of a mess,
Yeah. I only hope that things change. It's all we can do, We can
all
either
we can do is just try to toe the line and keep on keeping on,
Yeah, it's either that
and
or
try to be sensible about it,
Yes.
Because our democracy is indeed very fragile, as we saw this week,
Yeah, I didn't even know how fragile until this week. So.
Yeah, well, we do now,
Yes, we do. All right, Keith, thank you again. Stay safe, and please keep us updated on any new projects.
I will. All right, there's an invasion movie called Invasion I'm in that we shot this last fall in October and November with Riz Ahmed and Octavia Spencer. So that should be coming out at some point in the coming year. Invasion. Hopefully it'll be there. I don't know when. Don't have any dates yet.
All right. Well,
but it's kind of a psychological thriller with sci-fi overtones.
Oh, that sounds like something I would enjoy. All right, Keith. Thank you again. Right. It was great talking to you, and you and your friends and your family stay safe.
Okay, you too. All right, and everybody else out there in your listener land. All right.
Absolutely. All right, Keith. Take care. Bye-bye. And please subscribe if you liked it. I have a lot more interviews coming in the new year. I just wanted to throw in one last little side note. Keith mentioned several actors and actresses he worked with. I highlighted a few of them that are either very well known or you may not know their name, but chances are you know their face. So, the first actor is Jack Warden. The next actor is John Hurd. You may recognize as the father in Home Alone. This handsome guy was Richard Jordan, or is Richard Jordan. And last but not least, if you don't know this guy, I'm sorry for you. You need to watch a lot more movies. This is the late, great Robert Mitchum.